Let's try that one more time. Hey, everybody, it's Paul Grossman, the Dark Arts Wizard of Test Automation. And I'm looking at my camera. It seems to be like it's a little jittery today. I just rebooted it. Um, and yeah, it says I'm freezing a little bit. Let me see if I can get a different camera working. I'll switch this out. And now I'm the invisible man. Well, everybody, hold on one second here. I'm going to go take a look at another camera. We'll try a few other things there. Well, look at me. I'm really green. That's not the color of my shirt. But this is not the intro I was expecting over here. I'm going to try a couple of different cameras. To be honest, I don't think there's not much I'm going to be able to do with helping with the camera today. I think we're just going to have to kind of live with it the way it is. And boy, I'm going to go switch to one more camera over here and see if I can get this to act a little bit better. And yeah, well, yeah, that's about as close as we're going to get. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again with our Testomat a little 2-hour conference here. We always have great speakers who are here to kind of give their ideas and thoughts and whatever things they want to do a little bit about with automation. We've got two great speakers, and we got Merrell, who will be coming up in about an hour. And he is actually, I'm not saying he's an acquaintance, because we met about 20 years ago at my first conference. And also he had a website, which we'll show a little bit of back in the day with a friend of his, Will Roden. And but first up, we've got Marcel Veselka, who is coming out to us from Prague, and he has a really cool company called WOPEE, WOPEE.io, and we will talk a little bit about that stuff as well. So I'm just doing a little quick introduction before we get started. We've got a couple of minutes. I already said thank you again to Testomat for doing these conferences and doing stuff. One thing I do want to remind you guys, depending on where you're watching this from, you could be looking at it through LinkedIn, you could be looking at it through the YouTube channel. There is a thing on the right-hand side that says there are messages that you can say, do a message in here. Now, here's the cool thing. I can see Mr. Miyagi. I think he knows a little bit about karate. He said, hey, is there anyone else who could make sure that our messaging is actively working, and mention where you're watching from? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it through YouTube or anything else? I'm going to, while I wait on that, yeah, I can see that. I can also see Swap Neil. Dan, our producer, back screen, is actually giving us some messages over here. He's an awesome guy. You never get to see him or anything, but I like to chat with him. I want to give him a shout out because he's always doing a fantastic job with us. Hey, so Swap Neil said, good morning and good evening. You missed the joke. Good morning, good evening, and good night. From the Truman Show. We always like to have a little fun from that. We got Mikhail. Hello from Slovakia. Excellent. We are global. This is fantastic. And Mr. Miyagi says he's watching off of YouTube. Terrific. I'm going to give you a little bit, tell you a little bit about myself, and then we're going to start our introduction over here. By the way, I'm going to go and see if I can share my screen. One moment here. I'm going to set up my screen and see if I can share this, because this is, of course, I went to the wrong one over here. 1 second, because I think this is kind of cool. Trying to find my run my camera down to our bottom over here. So Dan, hang on 1 second. I'll be right there. I wanted to, yeah, here we go. Dan, I'm going to go share my camera. If you could bring it up screen, here it comes. I want to share, let's see, this one over here. I've got that up here. And this is just a little teaser since Marcus is coming up in here. Boy, there we go. Can you do it full screen? Just to let you guys know, I should have done this before Marcus speaks. I've known Marcus from his website. The Software Inquisition is now dead, but you can find it out on the Internet Archive. But we can, again, this is what it looks like, and these are some of the stuff, and that's his friend. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. We're going to do something a little bit different. Dan, you can actually pull off that screen over there. And we're going to bring on, Marcus says he said he lost the domain. So am I, man. I'm going to let you know that we're going to bring on Marcus in just a moment over here. A little bit about me. I'm a test automation architect. I've been doing this for about 25 years. I work with all sorts of different tools, QTP, UFT, currently working with a tool called Test Rigger, which is really cool. And I know, Dan, Marcel will be first. He's trying to remind me. It's first. Stop talking about Marcus. Like, I got the order. We're good, man. I do some test automation in coding. I also do stuff in plain English. So if you ever want to check it out, I've also got a chance to see Testomat just last month, which is awesome and really cool. So do check it out. If you guys ever want to do a challenge, check out candymapper.com. And if you ever want to do a live stream with me, hey, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just do DM. I'm always happy if anyone has any particular tool, WebDriver.io or a book that they've written or anything like that. I am always happy to bring you on. All right, enough about me and what I do. Let's get Marcel up here. And we're going to have a little technical difficulty. We're going to see if Marcel can get his camera up here. Looks like mine woke up. Looks like mine had some, got the coffee, and it's much better now. Marcel, are you out there? How about your mic? Because I can't see your camera yet. Are you able to hear us? Or can we hear you? All right, Dan's working on the technical issues behind the scenes. Don't worry about that. We'll take that. Cool. We're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to ask Marcus once I get his approval. We're thinking about doing a little roundtable at the end of the session. So I'm going to move our stuff a little bit. I think we'll have everybody sit around and join on a three-way up there. Hopefully Dan says, yeah, I can do three pictures, cameras at the same time. Let me know if you can. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but don't worry about it. We'll get that going over there. It will work out. Let's see. So we're actually kind of waiting over here. Let's see what I can do to do some filler. Couple of books that are. Oh wait, I'm not going to talk about books. We got Marcel. Hey Marcel, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, great, doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've got this company, OLP. I've not heard of it, but I definitely want to go do the Candy Mapper Challenge. We'll talk about that offline, but I definitely want to see how it works. And so, Marcel, I know you're coming to us from Prague. Am I correct? Out of the Czech Republic? Yeah. Am I correct?
You're right. I'm based in Prague, in Czech Republic.
Excellent.
15 years or so.
Ah, fantastic. You and I have a little bit of a shared heritage. My grandfather was Czech as well. He always said he was a Bohemian. I don't know what that all meant, but I have some sort of insurance policy from the Czechoslovaks of America. So, and but I can't speak any language or anything like that. That's all I got. It was my grandfather, but he was a great guy. So, Marcel, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so my name is Marcel Veselka. I'm a tester since 2004, and last 2 or 3 years I'm building autonomous testing tool, and I will probably talk about the topic, and I will cover the topic in my talk and explain some ideas behind. And apart from that, I don't know what I should talk about. Maybe I love to run and test
Oh
not
yeah,
only software and also wine.
yeah.
And what else?
It's actually, Marcy, it's entirely up to you. If you got slides, PowerPoint slides, usually we just let you run. This is your first time up here. If you're cool with that, and if you want to share a screen, so I will say I'm going to turn it over to you because you're doing AI powered test automation, and you're going to be talking about building bots in Playwright. And
Yeah.
I'm actually looking into Playwright it myself right now. I'm actually doing a course on it. So, Marcel, I'm going to turn it over to you and take it away.
Great. I'll try to share my screen now. Let me see. Okay. First, no. I hope now you can see my screen. Let me quickly check the chat. Could someone tell me that you can see my screen? And I need to swap that, right? Swap. Now it should be fine. So let's start. So thank you very much again that you invited me to talk about my passion and something I'm working on last few years. And it'll be AI-powered test automation and how to build a bot in Playwright. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Marcel Veselka. As I said, I am based in Prague, and since 2004, I was working in various positions in software testing. Last 3 years, I am working on the idea of autonomous testing. We found a startup called Vopi.io, and this the mission there is that we will turn testing into, I'd sometimes say, Spotify experience, but instead of getting the music, you would get the test report. So from the URL, we will generate everything to deliver users favorite test cases and then test reports, which would cover all the results from the test execution. I would like to talk about how to build a bot with Playwright, and this will be some kind of journey or story about how we are developing it and how far we went with that. I will cover the original idea and explain what is the autonomous testing and how we are trying to bring that idea into the projects or to our customers and community. Then I will be talking about some recent moves and new ideas, which are AI agents, and everyone is talking about it. But my motivation here is that I will give you some quick intro to explain how it works and how you could benefit from it. And I will have some short demos to show you how it works. And at the end, I will just slightly touch the future. To be honest, I don't know what will happen, but maybe I will just tell you or share with you my ideas, what I could see already on horizon. So let me start first with the idea, with the first initial idea and motivation why I decided to spend my next couple of years on this topic. So I was running a software testing company where some of the customers were saying, okay, we already mastered test automation. What would be the next? How we could improve what we already have? And I was invited to deliver a couple of workshops in that area. And one of the topic there was autonomous testing. So let me first explain, and I fall in love with the idea. So now I would like to share that with you as well. So what's the autonomous testing, or what is the definition of autonomous testing? Many people say that it's something like humanless and AI powered or AI augmented. And this is very high level definition. I will go deeper and deeper, and we will end up on the code level. But this is very basic definition of autonomous testing. And if you look at this definition, you might find out that it's not completely removal of that, or I would say humanless for me, it's less humans rather than anything else. We can discuss maybe at the end whether you could see it there as well. And AI is something we already have around us, and we can easily apply that. If we look back what happened in the past, and you might remember that we had some manual testing in the past, and then someone says, we cannot keep up anymore. We need to introduce something more clever. So someone brings the idea of test automation, and we just follow that approach and idea. And at the beginning, it was pretty raw. It was so painful to find out how to set it up. But after some decades, now I feel the industry itself is now heavily capable to automate the tests, which could be automated. But a lot of people start saying around the year of 2010 that there is a new era, or maybe a new movement, which they call autonomous testing. And this is still a shaking topic, where you might find out that sometimes people are saying this is not a new era, this is nothing special, it's just better test automation, it's AI powered test automation. Someone is saying no, we need to completely change the approach and the way how we are dealing with automation, and that need to be completely rebuilt. It's something like, and I was discussing this with Jason Arbon, that it's maybe the transformation from horses to cars rather than anything else. Maybe not. We are just building the quicker horses only. But these are the three stages. I was trying to explain why that autonomous testing might be interesting. It's coming to software testing, or actually it came among us. And now the question is how we could succeed, or how this could be beneficial for us. And I'll be talking soon about that. So let's move on now to the next slide. I was just trying to quickly cover the ideas of this manual testing, test automation, and autonomous testing. And you might find on the slide that there are multiple already existing tools, free, open source, free, sometimes are not even dedicated for testing like Excel, but we were using that in the past to help ourselves to make the testing more efficient. And people are still keep building these tools. And I felt like, okay, I would like to contribute as well. That's why we found the company. So I felt, okay, we might help people to make this approach more efficient and better. And before I will go that, this is not only my idea. There was a lot of other, or there are already a lot of other companies talking about this. And one of the companies is Gartner. And if you look, or I follow them for a couple of years, and they are predicting that this new approach, they call it in past autonomous testing, later they change their mind and rename it to the AI augmented testing, that it will be very soon ready to be used across entire industry. And their prediction in 2023 was that it's here in 2 to 5 years, or it might still die, because there is this volley of death in the middle of my slide, where some ideas are just end up and they are not able to move this to move to this plateau of productivity, which is actually when the idea move there over this hype cycle, it means that it's just there is no any innovation. It's standard production ready approach we could use. So you could see that also other industry leaders start talking about that a few years ago, and it's still here. And I think this is just, or this was just beginning of the entire movement or era. And many other companies start talking about some levels of test autonomy and so on. I will skip this to move to something more concrete or practical. So how to build a bot or autonomous agent, as we call it these days. So in order to build this kind of testing bot or testing agent, we need to handle somehow automatically or autonomously interaction and validation. And this is not only about writing the script to do so, because this is the traditional test automation, but how to even build that code to interact and validate the application. And it might be different for various components we are testing. And it might be also different for various data types we want to cover with this approach. So if we could find out how we could autonomously interact with app and then autonomously validate the functionality or some data quality or some performance parameters, then we could have this autonomous testing available. So I would like to start with some first experiment we did. So we did first was some, in these days I'm calling it was stupid crawler. In that time I was super proud of it. So we just crawl the app, collect the screenshots, and then we compare them. So having this map of all that network of all the screens and everything, then we could easily say that we have the autonomous testing bot, because if I collect the screenshots and then I rerun the test and screens changed, I could see that there are some regressions and potential bugs. So I could easily run these 6 simple regression tests, collecting the screens, and then compare them. This was pretty raw, and I would say, and I have to admit, in three years ago, a bit maybe stupid idea, but it worked. We were happy about it, and we started trying to use and experiment it across multiple projects, and collecting the feedback and keep improving it, adding some features like the bot was able to log in, or we could accept the cookie banner, and so on. So we were trying to maintain this, but we then later found out that autonomous testing is not about being there from day one. There is certain transition to there. So what we start doing as a next step was that we basically try to augment some testing tools. We play with robot framework, we work on the Cypress ideas, we work with Playwright, and these days we are more, I would say, stabilized around the Playwright. And I would like to show you some ideas behind what we built as a first autonomous testing. So we said, okay, many people complain about maintaining the locators. So you need to write the locator to navigate to some specific page. So what about instead of that, we would have only short statement like navigate to login page. So instead of running this, I open the browser and maybe I record the locators because CodeGen from Playwright is pretty good on that. Or I need to collect the locators in traditional way. So let's forget about that and let's just write and type their plain English text. And this approach worked. And we were able to build some simple custom functions like navigating or simple atomic action, or we even could build some more complex filling form type of actions. So then I could get all the locators and even the test data could be generated. This is just demo how it works. I will skip that because I think it's not so interesting. But what we could then achieve is that with completely different URL, we were able to navigate through the page and collect the screenshots. And if you remember the idea of navigating through the pages or the website or the web apps and collecting the screenshots, this brings us to that visual testing and comparing the screens from the previous runs. So we had autonomous validations. We do not need to prescribe exactly what to do, but we still have a kind of strange approach in that area of interacting with the applications. So, but I felt like this might be still beneficial because if I could just parse some specific feature file or any other type of human or plain English test case, then I could transfer it easily to navigation and the assertion might be by collecting the screenshots. Actually, the collecting the screenshots and all this visual validation idea turned into like one of our business we have, but that was not a part of the autonomous movement. With this challenge, with this approach, we had multiple challenges. It was not easy to repeat the scenario because sometimes the LLM didn't give us the same results. Sometimes we had some issues of speed because the LLMs were slow, and we had some limitations in the context because the HTML files become or were too big, and a lot of other stuff. So we said, okay, that might be a good step forward, but we need to find a better approach. So we started building something more robust. So we crawled the app as we did in the past, but we said, okay, so maybe before we will have any test, anything prepared, we will just generate out of this automatically collected data some user stories. And then from the user stories, some people say, no, don't call it user stories. It's test stories or test flows. So whatever we will call it, that was basically understanding the business value, business purpose of the application. Then from that, we generate the tests, and from that, we generate the code. So that was the idea behind, and we just keep working on that and improving it to make sure that we will get some better results. But once we done this, we found out that there need to be review after each and every step. We cannot believe what we are getting. Sometimes even we need to regenerate the outputs to make sure that this will work well. So I just showing you what was the journey getting there. And we found out a lot of other challenges, other problems, but we still could collect the screenshots, then generate the user stories, and from that we generate the test cases. So this was the idea behind. And then we said, okay, we have everything now ready for the Playwright code, or maybe not. So what was the limitations to generate the Playwright code? We found out that there was some context missing. So for instance, the LLM suggests to submit the entire login screen and then check whether we are on the dashboard, but we were not because there was no dashboard on the page. Or we were trying to fill in the fields of the credit card, but there was 4 fields instead of 1 in the app, and many others. So what we keep adding to that entire approach was basically three approaches. One was the reflecting actual HTML. So we just feed the LLM with HTML. And then we try to improve by introducing some new processes. One we call dry run, another one is expansion or expanding of the existing tests. By these 3, we could get more tests, more quality tests, and we could also improve the test code we were getting. So all these three approaches helps us to deliver better results, but we are still not there. And we felt like, okay, this is good. It's basically covering entire process. So we are not automating only test execution, but we are also focusing to automate entire process from test design and test analysis into testing. Humans need to still step in and modify and help us to improve that results. But even that would be only 40% or 60% of what we typically do. I felt like this will help us a lot of time. So I decided, let's push it further. Let's try to make it even better. So what we did as one of the experiment, and it's available and it's open source, is that you could easily generate from URLs the user stories, and all the things we basically packaged into simple terminal app. So you just run npm run crawl, or if you want to type it the entire command, it's npx playwright AI bot crawl, and the bot is crawling page, collects all the HTML, it minimizes it to make sure that we could use it with LLM, and then collects the screenshots, and basically it automatically prepares the data to navigate to the next step. So once this was done, the next one was to generate the stories. So I would just run npm run, and I'm getting stories. in Markdown file, we also have the alternative for JSON, but it's detail not relevant for the sharing the idea. So once this was done, we were able to generate everything, including the code. I will just skip that. And we were able to run the code. Everything from VS Code without touching any UI, anything. It was pretty nice. And at the end, it looked like there is a potential to enhance it even further. And if you want to try it, I just share here the 2 links. I think the Playwright AI bot-demo is the interesting one. You can clone it, install it, set your API key or Microsoft Azure keys, and then you can run it locally. And you can play with it and let me know what you think. I believe it's good prototype. I still call it early preview, but I believe we will enhance it even more in the future. So that was the first idea, but then something happened. We felt like, okay, we are doing a good job. We are close to the solution, but then AI agents was introduced and we felt like, okay, we are talking about autonomous testing bots, but the market changed the terminology. Everyone is talking about AI agents. So are we building bots or agents or what we are building? So let me share the ideas behind this one, because that might maybe help us to understand what is the next in the story or what will happen later. Almost every company is claiming nowadays that they are using AI, that everything is AI powered, and they have AI agents. But even what I showed you until now, it's not AI agent. Some marketing people would maybe say, this is AI agent, but it is not. So let me share with you some short definitions and then short demo as well. So what I would like to cover now in this part is what are the AI agents and what are the LLM workflows or apps, as they call it? What are the AI agents building blocks? And then what is the AI testing agent and how it works, including some demos. So let me start with LLM apps and AI agents, or sometimes, as they said, LLM workflows. First, the workflow itself. It's basically one call to the API, getting your response, or it could be some set of LLM calls where you are getting some result from the from LLM combining with some tools. The problem with this is that this is just the approach where you are getting result, but in forms of text. But if we are talking about these LLM workflows, you might have multiple approaches. And if you're interested, just read this Anthropic article. It's pretty interesting, but we have no time to cover that. But let me now talk about the AI agent. Apart from the traditional LLM workflow, actually, it is also LLM workflow, but it could take maybe I'm just taking out the next slide, but it could basically take the high-level task from the human, split it into smaller chunks, and then run it one by one and execute it. The biggest difference between previous ones and this one is that it could take some action based on the LLM instructions. So, as I said, LLM alone can't take actions. This is the definition. AI agents could. It receives the high-level task, then it reasons about it, and then decide about the actions and then execute the actions. This is the way how the AI agents work. I will show you some examples, and I'll show you also some definitions behind. So we will go deeper into the idea. So there will be hopefully another chance to get that idea if it's confusing from the first run. But basically, it's combined LLM planning ability with tools. And I will explain what is the planning ability and what is the tool and what is the reasoning and so on. I will skip few of the slides, and then let me just tell you or share with you that there are a few definitions about the agency levels. So it's pretty confusing, but still there are multiple sources, and I brought a few here. If you are interested about the idea, it's good idea to follow Hugging Face. They have some nice definition about the agency levels. Similar here is from LangChain. I just brought it here for your reference if you are interested. And then, of course, I couldn't miss this opportunity to pull up my old slide where we are also talking about testing autonomous levels. And it's, I would say, still pretty theoretical, but it's good basis for future discussion and going more into detail and more practical, maybe challenging questions at the end. So let's now discuss about AI agents building blocks. So in order to build this autonomous application, which could decide themselves and could basically pull out any tools required, we need to have some building blocks. And these building blocks are, at least in my slides, it could be structured differently. One is planning and reflection, which is basically the master LLM flow. And then we have some tools, memory, and then there are some multi-agent architectures. I will not go too much detail in that last one. So first, planning and reflection in AI agent. This is basically functionality where AI agent could plan and could decompose the given goal into smaller sub-goals to reduce the complexity and improve the efficiency. Then it could also reflect and refine. So if it fails, if some sub-goal or subtask is failing, it could try to rerun or even try some alternative approach to do so. It's part of the definition, but this is something what you could configure as a part of your agent. What I would like to also stress out here is that there are plenty of already existing algorithms and tools. So basically for us, it's not so important to deeply understand how it works. The basic principles are important to follow and understand, and then we just need to understand the API, how we could use these type of features in your AI agents. So what's the important from this planning and reflection? It's goal decomposition as one of the feature or one of the behavior, then self-reflection, and this will help us basically to deal with the complex tasks and improve that over time. Then one of the topic which might be interesting from that algorithm is chain of thought, and this is basic. I decided to take only or pull out only this topic. It's basically fine-tuning the existing model that it does not give you straight away the answer, but it enforces the model to first think about it, or at least explain or reason how the results is given back to us. So this is just another example which might be interesting for you to learn a bit more about. Again, the link, so if you are interested, you could go there. Now let's talk about another building block, which is tools. Tools could be split into two, symbolic and neural. And again, until now, it's pretty theoretical, but this will be very practical to understand what is behind and how it works. So basically, we could provide to LLM the tools, and the LLM agent or AI agent could call these tools when it's needed. So, and then we have a couple of traditional tools, and I was trying to give you the testing examples, or at least UI, web UI test examples. Even I have some maybe non-web UI examples here. One of the tool might be any algorithms. It might be Playwright, open browser, or Playwright, click on some button. It could be APIs like seeding the database with our testing data, or getting some test data, but it could be also neural, which are basically other AI-powered tools, either based on LLM or machine learning. So this is basically it about the tools. That's so simple. It's just, you can imagine it as a set of simple functions you can call. And last, or not last, the third component here is the memory. So in order to make this AI agent efficient, we need to handle multiple types of memories. One is, or I will just quickly go through them. One is the sensory, which is basically nothing else than prompt. So whatever you are providing in that prompt are your data you are using. Then there are some shorter or short-term memories, which is exactly actually the session of that chat window, if I would now compare it with some chatting, but it could be any memory you store in that certain flow. In our case, this will be whatever happened during the test execution. It do not necessarily need to be chat, but the chat is simple example where it's happening. And then there are some long-term memories, and there are basically three main types. One is the training data and everything which is inbuilt in the model. Then there is something which we call fine-tuning. We're just taking the existing model and all what's in, and on top of that, we are building extra layer with using some fine-tuning. And the last one is RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. I just decided to explain two principles. One is this RAG, and another one, I believe I left there, the fine-tuning. But time flies, so I'll be trying to be very quick. So what is this RAG stands for? It's, as I said, retrieval augmented generation, and it basically combines LLM with some external database. How it works, I'll just quickly switch to the schema. So whenever I call prompt to get the response, there is some extra call to database to fetch some relevant data, which could be injected into that prompt. It's super simplified, it's a bit more complex, but we are basically taking extra data and enriching the prompt with the data, and then asking the LLM model to generate the response. It's, as I said, it's much more complex, but to make it super simple, this is how it works. How it helps us. One is the context size. So sometimes we cannot put all the data we have into the context window. Even we are using Geminis, which have pretty nice big context windows. And also it's helping us to add extra data on top of already available from the training. So we can always bring the fresh data, because the database we are fetching from might be some kind of living document. It could be our CRM system. It could be, I don't know, intranet with some company policies. It could be set of PDFs transformed into some format. Then we can fetch it or provide it to LLM. So this is the RAG and how it helps the LLM. And then the fine-tuning is another approach. So if you need to improve the efficiency of your model, you could combine something about 20 to 50 high-quality examples and then just push it to the model, and you can fine-tune and improve the response on using this fine-tuning. There is some instruction how to do it in OpenAI. I could skip that. And the last component here is multi-agent architectures. So in order to make these agents efficient, one of the approaches that we need to make them as small as possible to isolate the task and goals, and then we need to chain them or somehow connect them. And there are multiple approaches how to do so, and multiple tools to do that. But if you're interested in that, this is just another reference slide. You could go into that area or into that link to get the more view on that. Actually, there is a lot of going on these days. Yesterday, OpenAI announced the Day framework or Day open source library for building agents. So it will be pretty interesting to look on them as well. It's not only about the multi-agents, but all these building blocks probably will be there available. This is the list of the tools which are available and could be ready to build your own AI agents. I will quickly go further because we have a few more minutes to cover the rest. So what about the AI testing agents? Is there any special difference, or is there any difference? I don't think so, but let me just quickly build the same slide as I did for the AI agents. What I believe, apart from the previous one, is that one of the extra tasks of this agent is to evaluate the outcomes. And the tricky question is how to do so. I will show you what I built as a first experiments, but I believe this is something important when you are building your AI testing agents. So let me move on to first AI testing demo. And I felt like, okay, maybe this might be something what would be interesting for you. So I'm building simple testing agent, and now I'm trying to convert the theory into practice. So I'm building some tools. I'm building tool for start testing, get page elements, click on some element, fill, select, analyze, report issue, and close browser. So these are my tools. And I decided that I will not build any other complexity into that simple testing agent, but I took these tools and I was running the same app against the same app I was using for the presentation of the crawler, which is a simple e-commerce demo app. And I run it in a way that I provide a prompt, which is, we call it system prompt. And then we have something what we call user prompt, or basically test case. And don't, sorry for how to say it, calling this prompt as a test case, because it's not really test case, but let's say this is the test I would like to do. I would like to log in and with valid credentials. How it worked, I need to build an agent, as I said. I'm running this agent to do so. I'm feeding all the data, providing the prompts, deciding about the model, and then I'm also running something at the end of each step to collect the results of the step and to see what's going on there in my reporter. So how it works, you could see on the right side the terminal. So I basically execute the first step, which is start testing. And on the right side is the terminal. On the left side, you could see the screen with the browser. And it might be a bit confusing or a bit messy. So because of that, I decided to make it even more messy. So in the middle, you could see the steps. So if you cannot read it because it's too small, each and every step on the right side is just copy paste in the middle, and you can see what agent decided to do as a first, second, third step based on the prompt. I provided the system prompt and then the user prompt or tests. So this just executes the steps and trying to log in. It's logged in. You can see there is log out on the top right corner of the screen. And then I'm validating that by step 11, I have screenshot and analyze, which I'm basically taking the screenshot and asking LML whether I am logged in. So this is basically the first demo. Let's move on to the second one. But before that, there are a few challenges. I felt like, okay, maybe this is something I could simplify. So what we did, or what I was thinking about, it might be pretty heavy maintenance. It lacks of the repeatability because AI agents could always decide differently. There is no traceability, so probably I would need to store the data somewhere and track it. It could be used some report portal or even, I don't know, Jira, Zephyr or Testomat.io to do so. So we basically need to find the tool to store the test results, and that's why I thought, okay, how we could use this idea, because I still feel like it's a good move, but even it's good move, it's not still good enough. So that's why I decided to go even further with the next demo. And I'm basically combining this simple agent with our approach of generating the tests. So what I'm doing as a next one, I am building multiple agents. We have some AI crawler, business analyst, test developer, and test executor. And these agents are accessible via UI, via API, and it means API in a matter of REST calls, but also CLI, so from terminal, and from Playwright code as well. So we are trying to combine all these ideas together to make sure that this will work as a one team of AI agents, and it's split into smaller chunks. So, and then I generate this. Basically, I'm repeating the story. I'm generating the user stories, test cases, and test scripts. But these agents work for me to make sure they are efficient, and I'm isolating each and every task to make sure that I'm getting most efficient results. And some people ask about these HTML files and the screenshots, whether this is the only way to do so. No, there are multiple other approaches. You can use your specification, you can use Figma files, you can use Jira tickets, commit messages, but you need to always tweak these inputs to make that outputs efficient. And it's heavily data dependent. You need to find the data. You can try to automate the collection or generation of the data, but it's super important. And this is something what I'm saying in general. It's not about the other tool. If you are committed to build something like this, the data are super important to make it efficient. So this is the way how we are now building that part of the product. We basically crawl the app, collect the screenshots, and once we have it, then we could run the agents across multiple stages. So I'm just selecting the crawling data, and then I generate the user stories in the second column, and then test cases in the third, and Playwright code at the end. I just don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to show you that another approach, how you could do it. You could combine it with the code, but we are trying also to deliver the user experience where everything is behind some UI. And your UI might be completely different. It could be Jira or something else. I will just move on. At the end, you are getting the tests again in UI based, or you could generate it into Playwright. But I think I don't want to spend too much time on this. If you are interested, there is another demo on our VOPIO YouTube channel explaining how we build a small Playwright agent for Revolut app, like a banking app, with all these, in quotes, real automation challenges. Actually, it was nothing too complicated, but the Revolut has their two captchas. It's opening some new tabs and so on. So typically, this is something you need to handle and in traditional automation. So if you are interested in that, there is 4-minute video to watch later about another approach we were working on, and we are still enhancing that. So let me now talk about the future, because you saw from the stupid crawler comparing the screenshot through something to generate in single calls LLM into something where we have multiple calls integrated into AI agents, which are deciding about what will be first, second, third step, and it could be dynamic based on your prompt, and even these prompts could be generated, so you don't need to write them down, so your test could be generated. What will be the future? And to be honest, I just put this here to ask you, what will be the future? What are the next steps? How it'll be moved? Is it a new era, or we just enhancing automation? Do we need to build all these things, or maybe we will have one model to prompt and we get everything back? So to be honest, I don't know. I'm really passionate about the topic. I love to talk about this, but I decided to bring a few ideas at least here to share with you. So as I said, autonomous testing, not sure how it'll be at the end, but we believe we could make it humanless, and probably AI could make it easier. Levels of autonomous testing. This is something I believe the future will be full automation or fully autonomous. But this is something for the discussion rather than telling you this is the future. I believe this will happen. My big question when and how it will look like. But there are also a lot of rumors out there. One is someone says that SaaS, software as a service, is dead. Not someone, it was actually CEO of Microsoft. And then a lot of people laugh on vibe coding. I don't know whether you heard about this vibe coding. It's basically prompting what you need and you are getting the code. There are plenty of tools these days. And many people argue, but that this is just hello world. But once it will enhance, we will not need any SaaS companies, because we will just prompt what we need as a tool and we will get that. So the application will become super cheap, or the code will become super cheap. It will be free. How we will cope with that in testing? Is it the same or different? I don't know. That's my question. I'm just raising a lot of questions now. I post test one provocative post on LinkedIn, I think 2 weeks ago. The test automation is broken. And I felt like, okay, I am interested what people think about it, because if we generate so much code, if I could become a, I don't know, C# developer, or almost overnight, it's stupid not to use these tools wisely, of course. And I'm asking, okay, is it the better record and play feature or something else? I don't know. I just think we need to get ready for the future. And I have a lot of patience, a lot of excitement, and I have a lot of questions, how it will look like, what to focus on. So tell me in comments if you know what will happen, whether we will have a new approach, or we will just improve what we already have. And some people say there is no UI need anymore. So I was thinking, okay, why I'm building this? If we don't test web anymore, it will be API calls. But I expect that there will be a lot of standardization. And I don't know whether you heard about this model context protocol, which is something which Anthropic is trying to push through and make sure that it will be heavily adopted. So there are many questions and rumors, as I said on the slide. But the question is, what and how will the future look like? And I don't know. So I would like to just quickly summarize. I hope I'm on time. I was trying to deliver some story. I was talking about initial ideas, then about AI agents and the new era which is coming, and a lot of storm around, which I don't know what will bring, but it will definitely impact us. And I would like to be part of that party, if I could call it in that way, because I believe this has a huge potential. We just need to find the best fit to our daily work in testing. And I believe it brings a lot. And with that, I would like to just thank you that you came and watch my show, or at least you was with us. Maybe you was doing something else, but thank you very much for being here, and hope you enjoy my talk. And let's connect on LinkedIn and discuss it there, or during the Q&A session now. But I believe there is much more than we could cover now in remaining 5 minutes.
There's always so much more we can always get into. Marcel, thank you very much for this. This is fantastic. I did do a little shout out to your YouTube channel on our LinkedIn over there. So if anybody is looking through on LinkedIn, I'm going to go copy it over also onto our, I said LinkedIn. I really meant to say, YouTube, but I'm putting it out on LinkedIn over there. I got a couple of hearts and thanks. By the way, everybody stick around. We have another speaker coming up here. That's Merrell. And Marcel, we're going to ask, see if we can go back to a couple of questions that we saw. And I did promise, I think it was, let me see, who was asking one question, And now they're all saying thank you, and it's all rolling over the screen. By the way, shout out to Jonathan Wright, who is watching us. I'm always a big fan of Jonathan and his sites out there. Let me see. Well, if I can. Oh, here we go. It's Tanya. So Tanya was asking, is Whoopi collecting the selectors following the Playwright documentation selectors locators best practices and regenerating selectors if the layout selectors change? And in my field, I call it clever coding. So go ahead, Marcel.
In our past version or our old version, we had some other selector strategy. So we didn't follow that. And to be honest, Playwright announced like last 1 year, or I don't know whether it's last year, but I remember there was some announcements and they changed the good practice, like or recommendation, what should be used. So we could follow that. I think we are not so strict on that, but if you would need to make it like more strict, we could set it up in that way. And the second one was whether we could regenerate the locators. Of course, that's not innovation anymore. That's an old idea. The self-healing and all this stuff, it's an old one. You just need to discuss whether and how and when it's wise to use and when it's maybe a stupid approach. But yeah, self-healing is something. It's traditional automation, I would say.
Awesome. We got Daniel Ortiz is asking, what about interacting with web canvas? Is it doable?
In short, I don't know. We could try. I never try. We never had that type of requirement yet. But I would love to try. If you give me some access to your app, let's build a demo for that. Or I don't promise to building the demo. At least I could try, and then let's see. Maybe we will fail.
Hey, Daniel, me and Marcel are both experimenters, so the same thing goes out to me. If you DM me, and actually anybody watching this, DM us. I'm sure Marcel is always happy to answer any questions out there. I'm always an experimenter. I love to do this. Let's see. Can we use, this is Guyana? Can we use some NPM packages to generate Playwright locators? Is it available?
There is the NPM package I was talking about. It generates the Playwright code, and I don't know. There is no feature like give me just locators. But if you need the locators from Playwright, there is nice feature, this code gen, which you could use. It's nice UI. You open your browser, you navigate there, and collect the locators, and it's pretty good. I remember the times like Selenium IDE and before. It was kind of strange what we were getting from there. There was even the self-healing, but I think CodeGen from Playwright does a good job for that. I don't know whether that was the question, how to get the locators, but that would be my advice.
Sounds good. Sounds good, Marcel. I'm actually going to jump back over to that question we had from Daniel, because I now have a better understanding. What he's asking is if you have a web page that doesn't have any web locators, and I know there's a type of framework, it's just images, and I cannot think of the name at the moment. If anybody comes up with what I'm talking about, can you interact with, can you work with a page that Flutter is the name that I'm thinking of? Could you work with a Flutter website? That's the challenge. I think
actually, whatever is regular HTML, but this is more, we are using Playwright, so whatever Playwright could do, we could do. So that's in short, that would be the answer. But if even the benefit of our approach, I believe, is that even the HTML under the hood is horrible, our generator try to somehow deal with it. I would never give that HTML to human tester to automate it because of the locators. But with this approach, you can just ask the generator to give you the locator. It'll be horrible as the HTML provided, but still could somehow figure out how to deal with it, and you can and the regeneration is cheap in terms of you don't need to handle that like opening inspector or whatever or code gen to do so. You just call the LLM to say this is wrong, I need a new one, please give me some options, and we could easily generate that. But I'm not saying that always that's the best approach. Build your software wisely, and then it's easier to automate, I would say. But yeah, we could deal with let's say a bit complicated applications as well.
And our next speaker, Marcus Merrell, is actually recommending computer vision approach. I would throw out OCR. I've also seen some successes with AI vision where it actually takes a look at it. And I can also see Daniel is looking at some gaming application he's probably working on testing. I'm going to tell everybody we're going to kind of cut it off over here. Marcel, can I ask, can you stick around? And we're going to try and do a roundtable with the three of us at the end of the next session. And if not, I tell you what, can you stick around right now for like 10 minutes?
I could stay now, but in 30 minutes I have some other calls. So I have.
I'm not going to go into it. Let's do this. Let me ask Dan. Can you bring up Marcus? Let's do it this way. We'll get this taken care of. We'll do this. We're going to do this. This is the first time we. Hey, Marcus, good to see you again, man.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. It's
perfect.
All
right, fantastic.
All right. So we're proposing a roundtable where 3 automation engineers get together and hash out some stuff, which is on the fly. I don't have anything prepped, so I think it was one of your guys' ideas to do this. I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
I think it was mine. I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem, Marcus.
Cool. Well, yeah, it's great to meet you, Marcel. I know I've seen you online quite a bit.
Nice to meet you
and it's great. I'm really interested in what you've got here, and I'm curious what you've found in terms of. I like the fact that you traced out how you created the tool and the thought processes you went through in order to arrive at some of the conclusions you arrived at. Because as people who are about to stick around for my talk will hear, if you don't have a company that's building AI tools with any amount of transparency, you should have some red flags. And I appreciate that you're being transparent about how you're approaching it. And I guess I wanted to ask, what I always worry about with low code AI augmented testing tools, I always worry about losing tester intent and losing human intent. And it feels like you've had to go through the ringer on this before. And I'm wondering, have you seen practical success since switching to this sort of use case? It's almost like an agent that acts like the user, which is separate from the agent that generates the code. And I want to dig in a little bit more on how that's worked out in practicality, because I love that idea.
Yeah, I think the agents are good as like test automation engineers building the code. But once you have the code, I wouldn't run it in this agentic mode. I would run it like simple code, like traditional automation, because then you can it's quick as the automation code, and you are having like a transparency and repeatability of that. If you run it as an agent, you don't know what will happen. If something fails, you try to retry and or find other path, but it's not the same test. But this is I would say, I wouldn't say traditional, let's call it traditional view. So
Uh-oh.
We
may have lost Marcel there.
There we are.
We lost you for about 5 seconds, Marcel. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my view on one side, that let's turn this AI into traditional approach, run it, and then get back with the results. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, okay, but what if the new era should look completely different? And I don't know whether this would happen. But do we need the test cases? Do we need the test code, or maybe we just need the bugs? This is a big question for myself. 20 years I'm in software testing. I'm building to follow some principles, some structures. But is this still valid, or how this will change with this AI approach. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But this is my storm in my head.
Understood. I think that to me the big thing, and I'm about to talk about this for quite a while. I also appreciate that approach in terms of controlling token cost, because as a preview, token cost is not something that you should trust to remain as low as it is right now. And so I appreciate that when you're using the agents and the AI when you know, for what they're good for, and you're not forcing them into every part of the product, because that's going to make your internal costs going to go up. It's going to create non-deterministic results. It's going to introduce a whole lot of variability. And so yeah, I appreciate the fact that you're limiting the AI to what it's really good at. And I think that's a very thoughtful approach.
Yeah, I think that the cost issue is not or won't be there anymore, because this is turning off the cost of electricity and hardware. With the open source models and all the things now, it's like, okay, it's for free. You just need to have a powerful machine, which is a matter of time when this will happen or we will have all the better machines to run it locally. So I think this will be disappearing. But I think this what did you say? That being able to trace what happened and being able to repeat that, I think this is important. This cannot be solved by or within the LLM models. Or you would tweak the model in such a way that it wouldn't be LLM model anymore. You would dictate what it should do. Then you don't need the feature there.
Well, I think we're definitely going to do some experimentation, Marcel. You and me, let's get together. Send me a meeting. I want to see more of the. Is it pronounced Whoopi or Whoopi? Whoopi. Okay, cool. Yeah. And I'd like to do the Candy Mapper challenge on that. We'll talk a little bit about the offline, and I'm going to ask you say thank you, Marcel, for joining us. I'm going to let you go, give you back a few minutes so you can get to that next meeting. And thank you for joining us. We'll definitely have you back.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest. Definitely. I will watch it from the recording.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcel.
Bye.
All right. Well, at this point, I usually do a little intro and stuff to talk about stuff or talk about all the different tools that we interact with. As you guys know, I have worked on automation working in WebDriver.io. I also like to put out my book out there with Peck Publishing. And if you're looking into, as Marcel was mentioning, using Playwright, there's web automation testing using Playwright by BPP. That's Kailash Pathak. I took a look at that and got it. So I thought it was cool. Marcus, any books you wanna promote? Anything that you're reading lately?
It's funny. I'm not reading at the moment, and it makes me very sad. The last book I read was Keith Richards' autobiography, which is actually fantastic. Really terrific book,
but it's not over yet. It's still going on. How can you
I think he's probably doing like a part 2 or something like that.
All right.
The book on my nightstand right now is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, just because I like to keep it light.
I love your sense of humor, Marcus.
It's funny. It makes me sad because nearly every friend I have who's been in the testing industry for more than, I'd say, 12, 15 years, they've all written books now, and I haven't done mine yet. And I feel like now all the books have been written. I mean, isn't there a book going around right now called The Last Book on Testing? And I guess I missed my chance.
I think I saw that. I did. And
I've heard it's great.
We have a friend of ours. I have a difference of opinion on whether these books are useful or not. I think they're very useful. So, but I'm going to leave that because that's there. In case anybody doesn't know, there is politics in test automation, and I'm getting very close to it right now, and I don't want to get into that. Just to let you guys know, I mentioned at the beginning, Marcus and I believe, bumped into each other possibly at the Mercury World 2005 Automation Optimization Conference over there. and I think we may have been walking down a hall chatting while I realized I still had the mic on me and had to run back and go give it back while the entire room was hearing us chat about stuff. Marcus has been a great guy. Yeah, and he's been in the field so long. He's my oldest automation contact. So Marcus, with that, I'm going to throw it over to you and let you run with it. And thank you very much for coming over.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. It's always great to catch up. Are you coming to Spain, Selenium Conference?
Nobody's paid for my plane ticket or sent me an invite, but
okay. All right,
but if you know somebody, I will talk to my boss at Test Rigger, and he might maybe he'll send me on a plane ticket. We can work something out because he likes it every time I say Test Rigger. So let's do that. But I got to shut up now, or else I'm gonna get in trouble. Marcus, it's all yours, man.
Great, thank you, Paul. It's good to be here today. Thank you, and thank you to Marcel for that talk. I understand that the title of my talk is a little bit of a, I don't know what you call it, clickbait. It's something that it's a little bit of an attention grabber, and I think hopefully after I go through it, you'll understand why. And I hope that it will generate a lot of discussion. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions that are looking for interaction, impact, see how you're impacted by these kinds of things. But mostly what I'm trying to do is part of my career for the past 2 years has not just been promoting test automation, best practices, stuff like that, but also trying to sort of deflate some of the breathless hype around what I see in AI, and to promote people like Marcel and Tariq King and Jonathan Wright and Jason Arbon, who are, in my opinion, kind of doing this right and carefully and reasonably, as opposed to basically just coming into my business and telling me that they're going to solve all my problems with magic. And so what we're going to talk about today, as I start to share my screen, is we're going to talk about the let's see, the entire window, entire screen. We're going to cover the regular drains on your productivity. I assume everyone can see my screen. We're going to cover the drains on your productivity. We're going to cover how it is being threatened and or augmented by AI. And then we're going to talk about how to sort of keep everything together. And it didn't look like we were actually getting to see my screen. Yeah, okay. What's interesting is that I think when I go full screen, I don't think it actually.
I think there's a couple options there. You can select the window, or you can select the entire screen.
I guess I should select the window.
I usually go full screen, so that works too.
Is that better? Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, great. Now I've got an eye on the chat on my phone, so if I look at that occasionally, that'd be great. But try not to get too distracted by it. Okay. So we're going to talk about the threats, the daily threats on your productivity, the problems that we're seeing come up with AI. And, it might seem like I'm kind of a curmudgeon on AI, and I promise you that I'm not. I use it nearly every single day. I use it to enhance my work. I've gotten so much value out of it, but I can't sort of stomach all of the breathless hype around it without saying, all right, let's take this down a notch. This is a fantastic tool, but it is not, the end of the world and the final answer to all questions of life in the universe, which is what I'm seeing out of a lot of executives who have a lot of skin in the game. So what I want to do is make sure that we're being realistic. So let's start with productivity. I assume that I'm speaking to an audience of testers and developers who have been around for a while. Maybe you're new. You're seeing that in your daily work, there is an output you have to generate, which essentially amounts to, code. You got to output some code. You got to output some documentation. And it seems like the world is conspiring to keep you from doing that, even though that's what you were hired to do. That's the way it felt to me the whole time I was a developer in the testing industry. And that's the way it feels to a lot of people that I speak to. It's like, if you hired me to do coding, why is it that that's barely I do it so rarely. It's kind of crazy. So how much time do you spend coding? How much of your time? I want to see in the chat. What does it look like? For me, when I was in industry, I could say if I got an hour a day, I was lucky. But I would like to see what other people say. There's a code, the software.com, or is it code.org? I don't remember. There's a link here on the bottom right. They had a survey a little while back, is during the pandemic, when you would think that productivity would be at its highest because everyone was sitting at home. 52 minutes of code time per day was all the developers could spend. Now that's kind of shocking to me, because you're hired to do a job, and this output of your job is, this is the one thing you're supposed to do, and yet you spend 52 minutes a day doing it, right? If someone is going to type 6 hours a day, I would love to understand. And I think you need to write a book and make a series of YouTube videos about how you do this, because it's not you. If you're not getting huge amounts of time per day, you're not lazy. It's that the world is conspiring to steal your attention. So what are these drains? What are these things happening? What are the big productivity killers? I'd love to hear some guesses in the chat, because my thinking was my productivity killer was my own attention deficit problems. And in retrospect, I'm actually going to reject that, because I think that the problem is context switching. This is, to me, the primary problem. And I saw a stat linked in this link in the bottom right here, that when you are coding and someone either walks by your desk or sends you a text or sends you a Slack, or you decide to check your email, it's the interruption time to your cognitive flow is on average something like 23 minutes. So you're coding along, you're in a state of flow. We all know that feeling, and it is one of the best feelings in the world. It's a pure dopamine hit to be able to sit there and just continue to do work at a competent level when you're getting the instant gratification of seeing that it works. And then you get a Slack that says, hey, can you attend this meeting? And you come back to it and you're like, oh, I don't want to attend that meeting. And you get all in your head and you start to think about and dwell on, why am I in so many meetings? And then you're kind of lost for a long time. The stat says 23 minutes. It's hard to sort of reconcile that. That's based on some survey data and stuff like that. But it rings true, at least, that context switching is the main killer of productivity. What else? Well, merely the fact that people are facing change, volatility, and uncertainty, it causes this cognitive load as you're working that prevents you from getting into the flow in the first place. Is the thing I'm working on the right thing? Do my managers understand what I'm working on? Do they understand my priorities? And is something about to change? Because the answer to that is almost always yes. How much effort do I want to invest in this in order to be able to make sure that it's right? And then what are the expectations? What is the acceptance criteria? And if you haven't operated in an environment where they routinely give you a definition of done, or you're not giving yourself a definition of done to say, not just that the code will be complete and this feature works and that there are no bugs, but I am providing value to my user. That's when I'm done, is when I've provided value to my user, that kind of thing. That's when I'm done. If you're not working in that kind of environment, you're already experiencing a lack of confidence in what you're doing, which translates into a lack of productivity. When you react to technical debt, which I feel like I heard someone recently suggest that we retire the term technical debt because it's been co-opted and overloaded into many other things. But I think we all generally know what it's referring to. When part of your time is spent, somebody files a bug and you see that there's a problem because you haven't updated your Log4j library since a few years ago, right after the unpleasantness with Log4j, something like that. And you're trying to, go back and create unit tests and stuff like that. It's going to interrupt. You don't get to work on new features when that kind of thing is happening. So it takes you backwards. It doesn't add anything to the company's bottom line, but it's work that still has to be done. Not only a morale killer, but a productivity killer. course, bad management, leadership, and coaching. I don't want to impugn anyone, but we all know what this looks like. And working with uncooperative team members or people who, I think it's generally, I find that when people are helping to mentor someone who's new in career, there's really no problem with that. What's the problem is when you have to answer the same question hundreds of times because your coworker won't take the time to internalize or really develop some skills or critical thinking, and you keep having to do their work for them. Probably nearly a lot of people here know what I'm talking about with that. Working across time zones is really difficult. And that is something that I think is almost universally faced at this point. We have teams in Europe, we have teams in India, we have teams in Australia. We have to deal with these time zones, and you have no choice in the matter. But what it leads to is if you have a problem and only someone in India can fix it and you're in the West Coast, you pretty much only have one window per day of opportunity to communicate and fix these issues. So a problem that would take you 5 minutes if someone was in the office has to go back and forth over a week-long period when you iterate over it constantly. Now, of course, there's bad tooling. We've all seen this, where someone introduces this tool as the next best thing, and it's going to solve all of your problems, and then it turns out that all it does is create distractions. What I'm thinking about here is when developers have to get pulled into things like Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Salesforce, different tooling around that, where developers don't tend to approach using software as a tool exactly the same way that the folks who develop something like Jira created it for. So if you're moving from Jira to Salesforce for issue tracking, something like that, it wasn't necessarily designed for you. It was designed for someone on the business side. That kind of thing can really cause you some cognitive load and take your time away. And for me, I think the number one distraction is meetings. In the position I'm in right now, and I probably didn't do a very good job of introducing myself. The position I'm in right now, meetings consume a large amount of my time that takes me away. Now, customer meetings are fantastic. I can't get enough of those. I would do those all day if I could. But meetings, for determining, let's have a meeting to determine what's going to be the agenda for the meeting. That's going to be the setting for the 3-day meeting that we need to plan in order to be able to plan out the next year. Like, it's a distraction. Now, my next question is, consider this list and add meetings, and then you add context switching, and tell me which of these things can AI solve? Sound off in the chat. Which of the things on this list can all the producers of AI tools help you with? I think we're heading near zero, but I would love to hear from everyone. Because we'll get to it in a minute, but the problems of productivity are only slightly augmented by the tooling around AI. And part of my hypothesis and my worry is that AI is now displacing the very thing that got us into the business of software development, as opposed to helping us with all the stuff that we hate, like the list from the previous slide. So when I hear people speak so effusively about what AI is going to do for my business, I start to wonder, well, what about all that other stuff that's actually the problem that I have? So something I hear a lot now. I work for Sauce Labs. I'm a principal strategic advisor to my customers. I've been in test automation for 25 years. I've been using Selenium since literally the day the Selenium and WebDriver projects were combined in 2008. I was working on Quick Test Professional for 3 years, and we had a really nice, robust suite of tests. And within 24 hours of the WebDriver and Selenium merger being announced and being rolled out, we decided to abandon Quick Test Professional and adopt the open source full bore. And within, I think it was 6 weeks, we were back to full parity in terms of getting our test automation back up and running with open source, as opposed to the really, really expensive QTP licensed test automation tools. The reason I'm bringing that up is just to say that I've been through the ringer and I've made all the mistakes that everyone has talked about. And it's been a joy to work with customers at Sauce Labs to be able to sort of head off things at the past and say, no, don't do that. That's something that I can tell you a story that will to convince you that this is probably not the right approach. And lately, what people are asking me in, I think, nearly every single meeting I'm in is, what is your AI story? And I have such maybe a strange and unintuitive reaction to that, which is essentially, my father is a carpenter. He builds beautiful picture frames. He's been a picture framer. He's 78 years old. He's still building picture frames. I once asked him, what would you do if you had $10 million? And he said, I'd just stop charging my clients, but I'd keep doing the same thing. It's a wonderful story. He's a carpenter and he's a painter. And to me, when I hear people ask, what is your AI story? It's almost like me walking into my father's house, gallery of beautiful paintings in beautiful frames, and saying, hey, Dad, what's your hammer story? How are hammers changing in your workshop? Because that's going to determine whether or not I buy one of your beautiful paintings. And what I feel like is being lost across the industry and being promoted by billionaires who may not care if I live or die is AI is the answer, when AI is just a tool. It is just a thing in your toolbox that can or won't or will or might save you some time. And I don't understand why this question is so important. But it is so important that it becomes a board level decision that every company makes right now, where the board is starting to ask the product teams, what is your AI story? What is the story around hammers for you? How are you using hammers? We need to make sure that you're using hammers better than other people are using hammers. And there's a new kind of hammer out and has a slightly longer handle, and we want to make sure that you're using it right. And I don't understand it. I don't know if there's something wrong with my brain. I don't know if it means I'm old. I don't know what's going on. I use the heck out of the AI stuff, but we use it to provide value to our customers. We don't use it as an end in itself. And I'm not sure, aside from the billionaires who are pushing this forward, who are in on it, I'm not sure what they have besides, this is a value for your customers. So I want to talk today about 3 inarguable problems of generative AI. Now, they're inarguable right now, but it's funny, as I was going through the slide deck, I kept thinking, how am I going to make it understood that I'm talking about right now, and that, maybe I'm going to list a problem that's inarguable right now, but it won't be forever. And I just realized I just need to make a caveat at the beginning, because every single slide on this page could say, like, not yet, or at this point, or now, or for now. In the future, if you look at this slide deck, it might seem a little bit silly, because these problems will probably be solved at some point. But at this point, right now, today, 2025, in March, these problems have not been solved, even with DeepSeek. So let's talk about these problems as they are right now, what that might mean for the future, how that contributes to your productivity decline. And then we're going to wrap it all up at the end with some suggestions on, how to keep an eye on these things, how to view them with just a tiny bit more, I guess I call it skepticism, or questioning, or challenging the assumptions than people are doing right now in the industry as they promote these things breathlessly. So first, let's talk about hallucinations. I think everyone here knows what I'm talking about when I say hallucinations. You could also call this, what I like to think of it as, is mistakes. These are when the AI model makes a mistake in its I was about to say logic and reasoning, but that's actually a very poor choice of words for this. As AI is generating an answer using its random number generator based on its pre-trained model, sometimes it chooses the wrong thing. So it gives a response that's not coherent with what humans know to be true. Lots and lots of examples of these. Some of these examples are old. Dinosaurs in the Cretaceous period were able to build a successful civilization by living communally and developing a variety of skills. The funny thing is, I've been using this example for a little while, and truthfully, actually not sure that's a hallucination, because it's kind of true by some definition of it, but certainly is not consistent, coherent with what humans know to be true. The world record for crossing the English Channel entirely on foot is held by Christoph Wanderach of Germany, who completed the crossing in 14 hours and 51 minutes. It just made this up. And when you sign up for Claude, it tells you, we're going to generate incorrect or misleading information. I think it was Sundar Pichai who gave an interview 3-4 months ago, the CEO of Google, who said that hallucinations are an inherent feature of generative AI, generative LLMs. An inherent feature, which means to me, not only is it not solvable with the current tech and the current LLMs, but they're not really even trying to solve it in the basic foundations of how LLMs work. The broad thinking for the past couple of years has been that hallucinations will be solved by more training data. But there's the thought that's emerging recently, especially around OpenAI's attempted release of 4.5 and 5.0, that not only is the training data too expensive, it's going to be too expensive, but the training data does not exist to eliminate hallucinations. And I'm not even sure it could, because we're still dealing with random number generator based on huge volumes of data that include deliberately unreliable sources that cannot be curated with enough time that we have left on the planet. These are not solvable using current day LLMs, which means that there is always a risk. And we believe that this will asymptotically approach zero. Always a risk that the output is not reliable. It's a mistake. What do we do about this? Well, we can fine-tune our algorithms. We can fine-tune the models. We can fine-tune the data that we feed into it. And that would get us into RAG models, which Marcel talked about a little bit, which is more like a bespoke model for you that will limit the universe of data that it pulls from. So that, why in the world would I want my test case data being generated by a model that was trained on The Onion and all the works of Shakespeare? So then there's chain of thought prompting, which of course Marcel taught about earlier, which is also leading the model by the nose to try to get it to hone its answer as it goes by narrowing the funnel of data that it pulls from in order to build its answers. And then we have the concept, which I think has been roundly dismissed at this point, of getting an AI to be trained on the output of another AI. And I read this a while back, and I apologize for not citing a source, but that by the 9th generation, I think, of an AI being trained on another AI, by the 9th generation, it was absolute garbage. It was completely, the output was completely untrustworthy, which had Jathan Sadowski on Twitter coined the term Habsburg AI, meaning that if you have these AIs that are being trained on AIs, it's similar to having brothers marry sisters for 9 generations in a row, and then you get this Habsburg jaw or Targaryen madness if you're a Game of Thrones fan. So we need to make sure that people understand these things, educate people on the limitations of the model that was used to train the AI. Encourage verification practices. These are a little bit common sense. You need to also improve prompt design. You make iterative, interactive. You incorporate external tools and checks, which is a lot easier said than done. But this is the problem. The problem here is that there's probably no universal answer for the kinds of externals and checks you have to put on these tools. And then you can adjust the model interface, continuous education, and just keep yourself educated and updated. Every time I give a presentation like the one I'm giving right now, I have to spend 3 to 4 hours researching and making sure that what I've got is up to date, and it is still out of date. And the last time I gave this presentation was less than 6 weeks ago. This is constantly changing, especially if you follow people like Jonathan Wright and Jason Arbon. It is constantly changing. And there's Hugging Face. There's a whole bunch of folks out there who really are following this stuff and keeping up to date and publishing a lot about it. Now, the second problem that's inarguable about these is non-deterministic output. Now, this can be good. Like if you're trying to write something and you're trying to tailor it, you're trying to, you see a lot of this with marketing output where people are sending out sales stuff. Your inboxes are probably flooded with AI generated slop around this, but sometimes it can be good to vary the output that you get, because if you're doing some sort of a creative endeavor, one of my favorite things to do with an AI chatbot is to brainstorm. If I don't have a coworker available, if I don't want to bother them on Slack to prevent the context switching, I can brainstorm with even an older model of ChatGPT and have a really, really great session where sometimes it'll lead me the wrong way, sometimes it'll give me the wrong answer, but I almost always come out of it with a better set of thoughts than I had going into it. And I think part of that is credit to the non-deterministic output, because it's always pulling from the model and always using its random number generator to vary the answers just a little bit. And I think it can be a strength. What it's bad for is, I mean, how many times as a tester have you enjoyed the fact that your tests are different every single time you run them? That's why I was particularly enamored with Marcel's answer about the agentic part of the test execution, meaning he generates the test using an AI. He has an agent that understands the website, and then a separate agent that actually generates the code and marries that to the intent of the user. But once it comes to executing the test, he has a deterministic script that is run that has nothing to do with the LLM and doesn't cost more tokens either. So if you want something that is the same every single time, you need to generate output in a way that will keep it the same every single time. That will be a snippet of code that you reuse over and over and over again, or something like that. And then when you want to maintain the test, or something changes and you have to regenerate the test, you regenerate it from the same agents that created the original one, but you don't use the agent to do the execution itself and give yourself a high chance that it's going to be variable outcome, if that makes sense. What do we do about this? We use LLMs for what they're good for. You brainstorm, you explore ideas. Having a conversation with ChatGPT in order to, and I use ChatGPT generically, so I apologize if you're a fan of Gemini or Claude. If you have a conversation with one of these LLMs and you really explain what you're trying to accomplish, test plans are a good thing. Definition of done is a very good thing that I've been able to get it to do. These are fantastic ways to do this. I have a typo here. LLMs might not do the analysis. They're sometimes not very good at the analysis. When you say, here's a whole ream of data, give me some conclusions. It's not real good at that. For that, I still think machine learning, statistical analysis, using an Excel spreadsheet and putting, standard deviation, basic charting and graphing, stuff like that. But when it comes to, when you have a chart, explaining what's there, LLMs are brilliant at that. So use the tools for what they're good for. And one thing, before I get to the policy, one thing that I think is extremely important to keep in mind is that LLMs were engineered to try to make you happy. That may not be the right way to say it. There's probably a better AI way to say that. I could talk to Dr. Reed at Sauce Labs to find out what the way to say that is. LLMs are designed to try to give you what you ask for. So if you say, I need documentation for an API call that will allow me to pull GitLab data out and put it into Snowflake, there is a good chance it's going to tell you something in there, some variable, some part of the endpoint, some data structure, something in there will be something that it made up. It just created on the spot. You can't trust that it actually went and understood the contract of the API, generated the output, and then put it in place. So it's trying to gear its intent towards what the API should have been, based on how it understands the world and how it understands whatever cutoff date for its training, how the world worked at that point, and then give you a snippet. Now, it's still going to save you huge amounts of time when you try to get it to do something like that. it's just important to understand that script probably won't work the first time you run it. You're probably still going to have to go to the documentation and make a tweak. But I'll bet you it can take an 8-hour task and make it a 2-hour task. Just try to remember going into it that it's trying to make you happy. So there are going to be certain things in the output that you're going to want to question right off the bat. And you can't just copy paste and send it to whoever's asking for it. Now, the most important thing to me is that you need to have a policy. We still don't know. The litigation hasn't really even begun to begin around training data, IP, intellectual property, how people are looking at this data, what it's using, where it's plagiarizing from, and who's going to be legally liable for this in the future, because I have a feeling to some extent that it will happen. We don't know for sure. If we were in a just world, I think this would have actually started to happen a lot already, but it hasn't. So don't know what's going to happen. I just think that you should protect yourself and have a policy for your product, for your processes, for your employees, in order to make sure that they are protecting themselves and not using data from the model that they shouldn't be using, and certainly not feeding your data or your customers' data into a model that will be trained in the future for someone else to use. So you have to have a policy. You have to keep it local. I know that one customer conversation I had 6 months ago, we were at a customer site and they asked, "What are you doing with AI? What's your AI story?" My favorite question. And I could tell that there was a desire to answer this question with all sorts of optimistic statements about what we're doing and all these forward-looking ideas for what we've got. But before we said any of that, what we said was, our plan is not to use any of your data to train a model that other people are going to then use. That's the first thing we can say, is that there's absolutely no way we're going to use LLMs to put any of your data at risk. And since we had a policy, it saved us months of extra legal review by the customer, who would have been fairly alarmed if we said, well, we're just going to use all this data to generate a whole bunch of stuff and it'll be fantastic. It'll be magic for you. So have a policy. Now let's talk about the third inarguable problem. Now, this is the least inarguable problem, but I don't think that the concerns are over yet. And that is that companies are pouring billions, and we might even be up to a cool trillion at this point, of the amount of money that's being poured into AI and AI endeavors. And I know that DeepSeek throws a wrench in that, but I don't think it's as big a wrench as people have treated it as such at this point. OpenAI lost $540 million in 2023 against $1.6 billion in revenue. Continuing the trend, they lost $5 billion in 2024 against $4 billion in revenue. They spent $9 billion to lose $5 billion. And these people are going to want their money back. Right now, when you pay $20 a month for ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever, every single time you enter a query, money is lost into the ether. It goes away, which means that you're not paying near the rack rate of what OpenAI is paying, even for the power consumption of these models as they are being trained right now. The estimate that I have seen, I don't know what to trust. I've seen an estimate, I think it was Dr. Jeffrey Funk, who estimated that it's something like 10x, like a $20 ChatGPT subscription should cost something more like $200 in order to actually meet the cost, including all the investment and all the data centers and all the power, in order for these things to work. What I am afraid of, what I am terrified of, and I would point you to Ed Zitron and his work. He is, so if I sound like a curmudgeon, he is me times 100. And I think that sometimes he goes a little too far, but he's doing his homework and he's citing his sources. Essentially, there's a subprime crisis coming. I liken it to what happened in 2008 with all the different things that happened back then, where things are being subsidized to a degree right now where everyone's losing money on every single query and every single customer that they've got. And the MAUs and weekly active users are not catching up to the investment that people have made. People are canceling, Microsoft is canceling contracts on data centers right now because they're essentially not seeing what's going on. And as a result of all this, as a result of the hype, and as a result of people like Sam Altman saying, this is going to fundamentally change the core of how our brains work and how society works and how the economy works at a fundamental level. As a result of people saying stuff like that, these trillions of dollars are going into this. And the most I think we can say is that, well, programmers have gotten a small productivity boost with some pretty great tools. And I'm not sure where else we've got. I mean, when was the last time you used a chatbot on a website that you actually enjoyed? Was it a good experience? I haven't had one yet. Now, I understand people say this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's going to get better. I'm actually not sure. Maybe. This is where I sound like the old guy. What I worry about is we are embedding AI into the products and tools that we make, and we are pushing them out to our customers right now. And we're calculating an ROI on those things, saying basically, if I'm paying 2 cents per million tokens, and I have this many customers who are consuming this much of my AI work, that means that I'm making a profit because I'm giving them a lot of extra value, and I'm going to get more customers as a result. One day, when the subprime crisis thing starts to kick in and these people decide that they want to get their money back from all the investments they've made, they're going to start charging the actual token cost, which means you are going to incur the token cost, which means you are going to pass the token cost on to your customers. So the ROI you're calculating in 2025 is not at all the same as the ROI will be in 2035 or even 2030. Now, I hear people already DeepSeek and the costs are going down in quantum computing. Of course, all of that might make a difference, but this money, I don't believe, can be considered a sunk cost. These people want their money back, and you're not just going to be paying for the costs, the reduced costs of data centers and quantum computing. You're not going to just be paying for the reduced cost of that. You're going to be paying for all the R&D and all the money that's being burned in a furnace right now by OpenAI, Microsoft, Anthropic, Grok, everyone. That's my worry. May not happen, may not come true. That's my worry. Then let's talk about energy consumption, which I'm not going to talk about this for very long, but from what I understand, we expect that at some point AI is going to eclipse most nations, most small nations, in terms of how much it consumes. This is a slightly outdated estimate, probably. This probably came from 6-8 months ago, and I think things have accelerated since then. But it worries me. And the problem is, I don't really see anyone who cares about this. The only way people care about this is by saying, quantum computing will fix it. Maybe. The lack of training data is already obviating the benefits that we can get to some extent from quantum computing. But I don't know that for sure. The thing that I worry about is that every single time you run a query against ChatGPT, it consumes the electrical equivalent of running a 60 watt light bulb for 3 minutes. Every single time. It's a huge amount of power to have it compose a poem about whatever you have on your mind. I have heard estimates that with a deep research module that ChatGPT just released, which you can get for $200 a month, a single query can cost up to $1,000 in tokens. This is not the pricing model we have right now is not going to stay the same. And there are a whole bunch of questions about whether or not DeepSeek is really real. Who knows? It's too fresh. I can't comment necessarily, but I just don't believe that we're going to be saved by these optimizations anytime soon. We might be. I doubt it. These people want their money back. So then what's happened? Has AI been a positive or negative to you? And has it been thrust at you, or did you seek it out? I'm a little curious. Remember that 52 minutes a day? The best estimates I've seen that these tools can help you with is by improving your productivity by 30%. Doesn't that just mean that we're going from 52 minutes a day to 67 minutes a day? Is the productivity gain of 15 minutes a day for a developer, is that worth the $1 trillion investments? Now, there's a lot of stuff coming out just recently, and including Microsoft CEO saying basically the world has yet to turn any of today's AI hype and spending into meaningful lift in the actual economy. Now, I know it's early days, but is it? We're over 2 years in. Researchers trained AI on flawed code. It became a psychopath. ChatGPT and other chatbots are hurting publishers even worse than we thought. The entire internet is being polluted by AI slop. We have all seen it. I have my index finger is tired from clicking the X button on all the Facebook posts. And the thing I'm worried about most is that there's a survey recently. I've got a link here to point to it. So far, these tools are costing us productivity. They are not actually helping. Now, I'm not talking about Marcel's. I'm not talking about the ones that are going through and doing this deliberately. In fact, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm talking about the whole ecosystem of magic that says, "Hey, let's just stick these in your hands and just let you run free with it without a policy, without a strategy, anything." I'm not going to dwell on that because I'm running out of time. But essentially, here are my recommendations for staying productive and making sure that we can all do some critical thinking and keep the slop at bay, keep the hype out of this, and then let's make sure that we keep this straight. First, we must admit that there is no magic. There is also no winner in the market. I see Mr. Miyagi says that the market sets the prices if there are no name LLMs at a low price, the big players can't charge sky high prices. I hope that you're correct, Mr. Miyagi. I hope so. What I am afraid of is what normally happens, which is that the monopoly converges, and the coalition of people who have sunk the billions of dollars in will close ranks and not let the little players in. I hope you're right. I feel like lately we've seen a lot of really, really great tools get boxed out of the market or get acquired and then buried. Consider the value before you choose a tool. Understand that the tool is a hammer and that you need to make sure that the hammer can provide value to your users. And this is the kind of thoughtfulness that people like Jonathan Wright, Tariq King, Jason Arbin, Marcel are putting into their tools. What is valuable about it? Not what can it do, what is valuable about it? The tool is just a tool. Agents won't save us. To me, it's funny. When I first heard the word agentic, probably last year sometime, I heard the word agentic and immediately I knew that's going to be the next big word. That's going to be the word that everyone latches onto because you never really use that. It's not really a big word in the English language. It's not really a word that's been used a whole lot, but everyone knows kind of what it makes sense. It's just perfect buzzword. That was just like nailed it on that one. And when I first learned about agents, I thought, okay, that's really cool. Let's lower our expectations because AI isn't a junior programmer like people say it is. AI is more like a toddler with a really big lexicon. And what do I really want to give a toddler the ability to take my credit card and book a flight? No. Let's lower our expectations. The kind of agent that Marcel is talking about, an agent with a single purpose to understand something or to generate something or to create something small or to interact with my IDE and connect it up to my CI/CD platform. These things with modest expectations and modest abilities as opposed to let's create an agent that can just load my dishwasher for me. I mean, it's just agents are not the answer to anything. Agents are a really, really interesting tool that's going to help us make these things practical and useful. But they themselves do not address hallucinations or non-deterministic outputs, and they certainly don't address token costs. You need to understand where your data is going. What is it being used for after you send it off into the ether? And then understand the toolmaker's thought process. I really enjoyed how Marcel went through the evolution of how his process came to be. And I think it's fantastic that he was able to take us through that and really show the thoughtfulness that he was putting into this and how his tool is going to separate from The rest because he's being transparent about it, and he's not just telling you that it's magic. He's actually showing you what it does. Seek out experts like Paul and Marcel, and Jason Arbon, Terry King, Jonathan Wright, Andrew Knight, Angie Jones, many, many, many more. Here is my list of words that on the left are the ones that when I see these words in marketing copy around AI tools, I get a little nervous that people are selling me some snake oil. If they say it eliminates effort, it automates things fully. If it understands, it knows. It doesn't understand or know anything. It has a model. It is a random number generator that is remarkably good and remarkably fast at putting things together that reflect an understanding, but do not actually exhibit understanding. Reasoning, they don't actually reason. They are very, very, very good at iteratively putting things together that appear like they are reasoning. If they say they're going to revolutionize something, run. If they say that they're going to offset effort, assist you, help you, optimize things, aid you, enable you, enhance you, streamline, analyze, explain, or if they moderate their promise, then I think they're probably being thoughtful and honest with me. And like I said, remember the problem of token subsidies. Deep research is rumored to cost up to $1,000 per query. OpenAI is on track to potentially lose 10 figures in 2025. When the bubble pops, it might come for them first, but we don't know. Now, what I would say is stay productive by using the tools to save time. Don't always assume they will save money because the price we see now is not the price we will always see. Probably. Can't predict the future. So, like I said earlier, Microsoft canceled 200 megawatts of data center contracts and over a gig of existing letters of intent on future data centers. That is more power than is consumed by the Bay Area, the entire Bay Area outside of data centers, which means Microsoft might be losing confidence in this market, even though Satya Nadella in every interview still is quite effusive about it and very, very vague. OpenAI will need a huge infusion of money before the end of the year. Let's see if SoftBank steps up. Let's see if SoftBank is still a bank. And OpenAI is pivoting away from the bigger is better story. They are now trying to moderate expectations. And I'm talking in the last week, they have started to let's be happy with, what we've got. Altman's statements have been very interesting the last few days. And I believe that is the end of my slide. Not magic. Don't trust the industry to maintain this level of momentum because when the bubble pops, the good tools will stay behind, but we'll see a very different tone in the hype cycle. Right. Be careful when embedding AI into your product for resale. Now, I understand that this whole thing was a curmudgeonly rant against all the stuff that we've been hearing about for months now. But I really do think that there's a lot to consider when you're trying to do these things and that you can stay wildly productive. Like I said, my favorite use of these tools is to brainstorm and to create scripts to connect pieces of software together. So I think there was an endeavor where I was creating an IDE plugin for JetBrains. And I mean, the basic, even ChatGPT 3.5 was able to help me so much. I would say that it turned an 8-hour process into a 2-hour process, which I then had to take still 3 more days to hand tweak in order to get it going. But it taught me so much about exactly how you need to do this kind of thing and how you need to approach these kinds of problems. It was really, really great. I'm sorry, Paul, if you've been telling me that I had time limits, I apologize that I missed those. I wasn't looking at the right window.
We're right on schedule. It's fine.
Okay, great.
We're cool. We didn't have a whole lot of questions. A couple that we had, I actually handled and answered. I did give you a shout out for Sauce Labs, the links that's out there. I will tell you it's tradition. We tend to go a few minutes over because I usually have some stuff to talk about. Marcus, can you hold up? Can you hang out for like 5 more minutes?
Yes.
And hopefully if everybody can. By the way, this is recorded. You could check out, if you're looking on YouTube, you can also, I believe once this is done, it's immediately available. You can watch it over again. So if you miss something, you can catch it again on the YouTube channel. I posted that up on the LinkedIn version, so because it'd be redundant on the LinkedIn channel. So I wanted to actually, oh my gosh, you made so many things. One thing you asked was, what is the best experience anyone's had with a chatbot? And I'll mention that one of our previous people we were talking to, and his name is of course going to escape me because I'm freaking old. All I can tell you is he's got the same name as a musician, and if you can come up with that name, like
Jim Holmes.
No, plays the musician, like plays a flute or something like that. It's the same exact name, except he's an automation, not a musician. But anyway, I'll get to my point.
Right.
He was talking about, these things are just doing cold readings, like some fortune tellers will do, and generic stuff like this. And he mentioned Pi AI, and I happened to go jump in. I'm like, I never heard of Pi AI. And I jumped onto that, and the thing started hitting on me. It was making me feel nice about myself. It was cool. It's gotten a little better since then. That was about 1.5 years ago.
Never trust Tinder again.
No, probably no. God, not married. Tinder at all. You also mentioned hallucinations. I did mention in the chat over here is that one of the solutions I saw one company do was that they had an issue where the AI validation says, check that the page has 2 people speaking on the screen. And it would say, that failed because there are only 2 people talking on the screen. That's the pass. And what the solution was to ask a second AI instance. Does that make sense? And the second would go, no, there are 2 people, it passes. It's good. And kind of reduce the hallucinations and the stuff down to practically 0 on that.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I'm hopeful that these will have, like, that in itself doesn't solve hallucinations. It helps mitigate them.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's where we're headed, and I think we'll get really good at it. I don't think we can. We always need to ask that question. Like, if someone tells you I've solved hallucinations, just run. They're a charlatan.
I think everything is, there's a lot of people want to get everything to 0, and I don't think you can never get to 0, or they're trying to get to 100%. When are we going to be done with automation? You get 100% coverage. And I usually tell them when your company goes out of business because your developers aren't adding any new features. I'm always 80% behind or 20% behind the developers. That as long as they're developing, I'll be working on adding more test cases for the 80% stuff that they add.
Yeah, right. Cool. Well, I mean, this was I tried to prepare this in a way that drops enough bombs to get people thinking, but I'm not trying to discourage the use of AI. I just want to say critical thinking is a paramount importance, and we really just need to make sure that we are holding people's feet to the fire in terms of not overpromising, not underdelivering, and I'm so afraid of all the money that's sloshing around in the system at this point that I don't know. I don't know what to do about it, except I'm not going to be like investing much at this point. I just feel like it's already overdone.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. The perspective I have is, AI is kind of like the difference between using a pickaxe to go and mine gold, and now you've got a jackhammer to mine gold.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying that jackhammer is going to put the gold miners out of business. No, it's just going to make them more efficient. Yeah. Just don't try and jackhammer into your own foot. That would be a bad situation.
Right. Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, you still have to guide it. And so I think it's great. I think Marcel's approach is the right approach. And I really, what I would do is I would plead. There's 30, 40 companies out there who are doing, kind of similar kinds of tools to generate test code using an LLM. And I would just entreat all of them to explain your process, explain your thoughts. Tell us how you arrived at the approach you've got right now. Because if you just, there's a couple players in the market who are just saying it's the world's first fully automated. Like, no, it's not. Nope. Stop right there. You're a charlatan.
Yeah, you might get 80%. That's as far as I
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So
80% is great. We should never knock getting to 80%.
Yep. I'm agreeing with that. Absolutely. Well, we're about 5 minutes past our time over here, and I want to let Dan get back to doing what he's doing. I wanted to say thank you, first of all, Marcus and Marcel, for joining us. We'll definitely have both of you back. We always have enjoyed. Marcus, is this our first time or second time we've had you here?
Second time. We talked about accessibility last time.
That's what I was thinking of. I get to talk to so many people. And I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Did I speak to you on somewhere else? But yeah, we'll definitely have you back. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Always insightful. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to Testomat for hosting these and continuing to do that. Like I said, I play around with TestRigger. There's no code, no page object model that we play around with, and nobody believes that I do that. Marcus, one more time, shout out for your company over there.
Sauce Labs.
Sauce Labs. There you go.
We have the largest and best enterprise grade cloud for mobile device testing, and we use AI for good and to give you value by analyzing the results of the tests you've already run, rather than magically trying to, work on the other side where we don't pretend to understand intent, because we're on the wrong side of the aisle for that, if that makes sense. And so our job is to give you value in the tests you've already run and tell you what's actually happening inside your software, as opposed to just, some measure of like, well, you ran 12 tests. Well, I don't care that I ran 12 tests. What do they do? That kind of thing.
And by the way, our two companies are actually partners with each other. So, if you guys have a company of your own, Testomat, I believe, partners with you guys as well. And if not, they should. So with that, I'm going to wrap up everything over here. Again, thank you, everybody. Any final words, Marcus?
No, I appreciate your inviting me, and I appreciate the audience. I appreciate the interaction. We had a lot of folks chiming in on the chat, and I hope I got to everything. It's great. Thank you very much. Great.
All right, everybody, we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. I think Larry Goddard will be hosting the next one, my co-author on our book. That being said, thank you very much for joining us, and have yourself a great day. Cheers.